There is a sequence where Robbie Williams's monkey gets a hand from an executive's daughter and then makes eye contact with him and laughs about it. Like, this movie is off the chain nuts. Hi there, everyone. I've gathered you all here today to tell you that the Robbie Williams monkey movie is kind of awesome. All right, so for those of you who don't know, Robbie Williams is a singer. He has a biopic that has just come out about his life, about his rise to fame, and in it, he is represented visually as a CGI monkey. All right, so it's Robbie Williams' voice for a good chunk of it, but he is a CGI monkey.
For the next 2 hours, your ass is mine!
No one ever acknowledges this in the movie. No one ever says like, oh, how did you give birth to a monkey? Like, this is an extended visual metaphor for us, the audience. It is Robbie Williams telling us his story, and in the story, he is the monkey. It's awesome, all right? Now, I'm just going to say, all right, a lot of people were against this idea. They were like, this is stupid. I don't know who Robbie Williams is. And even then, why are we getting a biopic where it's played by a monkey? I think it's a cool idea. First off, the justification for this is kind of like fame makes a monkey of us all. And also on top of that, I think Robbie Williams early on in the movie, like in the intro, explains that it's like, I've always seen myself as a bit of an outsider.
To be honest, I've always been a little less evolved.
And this is meant to represent that. Now, what I was hoping, though, is that they would get really weird with it. If you guys have seen BoJack Horseman, in BoJack Horseman, it's kind of like this Robbie Williams idea. There are a bunch of characters who are anthropomorphic animals, but no one ever really acknowledges it. You know, like humans will talk to human-like seals, human-like horses. And the idea is that some of the characters in that show are the animal that kind of represents their personality. You know what I mean? So like someone who's really skittish and high strung and anxious will be a cat, and they'll be in like the heat of an argument and then go like, you know, it's good. It's good. I like it. So the only thing I was hoping in Better Man was that if Robbie Williams got stressed enough, he would go like, or something, you know, or like do a monkey scream. And you know what? They didn't take it that far, but there are a few moments where you saw a bit of monkey come out. I was really hoping there would be a scene where he like threw shit at the paparazzi, but they didn't take it that far. So for the most part, he is just a human that looks like a monkey. No one acknowledges it. And you know what? I'm just going to say it. This makes the movie about 40 times more interesting. I felt like I was like high as balls watching this movie in like the best way possible. I'm not the biggest fan of Robbie Williams. For me, it was like my parents liked one of his CDs a bit, and I would occasionally hear the cover he did of Somewhere Beyond the Sea at the End of Nemo on that CD, so it jumped out to me. Aside from that, I am also a bit confused about how much Robbie Williams media we've had lately, but weirdly enough, I've enjoyed all of it. You know, I was confused as to why he was getting a 4-part Netflix documentary, and then I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I like his vibe, even though he has about only 3 songs I would say I really enjoy. And then in this movie, it was sort of another thing of like, why is he getting this massive big budget production? But then you watch the movie and it's so much fun and it's so well done and the musical sequences are genuinely great. That's the weirdest part of this movie. It's not the monkey. It's the fact that, in my opinion, Robbie Williams has rather simple, generic pop songs, but somehow in this movie they like beef them up with like musical orchestration, and it has some of the best musical sequences I've seen in ages. It's very much like Rocket Man, where they take famous pop songs and kind of add an orchestra and add scenery to make these incredible musical numbers. But not only is that impressive, but watching a monkey jump around interacting with real people on real sets, they actually like pause traffic on the street to film these, and so you're watching like real people dance with a CGI monkey. It's awesome. It's genuinely awesome. On top of that, I think there is an inherent level of emotion they are able to get because you have empathy for animals more so sometimes than you have for people. You know, there's that famous website of doesthedogdie.com where people are okay with watching movies where a bunch of people die, but like, God forbid, a dog dies. For example, Ricky Gervais made a famous joke about the fact that Does the Dog Die exists for like Schindler's List, right? So people will like gladly watch that movie, but draw the line at a dog. The reason I bring this up is to point out the empathy we have for animals. And I think Robbie Williams being presented as this cute little chimpanzee at the start of the movie means you have a lot of empathy where maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Like, his struggle for a lot of the movie is my dad left, which is sad, and I want to be famous.
Don't want to be a nobody.
Contemplate my fate.
You're enough.
Like, genuinely, you have to have heart-wrenching scenes where he's just sad because he thinks he's not going to be famous, which is a very self-involved pursuit and feeling to have. But because it looks like a sad chimpanzee, and you're kind of like putting these pieces together of like, oh, it'd be really hard to look like a chimpanzee in this world, you have more empathy and you're kind of rooting for him more. So straight away, like 5 minutes in, it kind of fades into the background that you're watching a monkey, but also it doesn't because you're inherently more drawn. But I think the bigger thing is because he's a monkey, it's kind of like watching an animated movie where just visually you're a bit more interested because it's so out of this world. So there will be like boring scenes. Like, you get very typical biopic scenes in the middle of this movie, which was my least favorite part of the movie because I don't like the typical biopic formula. But you get some very typical scenes. But because it's a chimpanzee, you're like, whoa, I can't believe he's doing that. Even though it is a human chimpanzee. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, somehow all these scenes are a lot more interesting and emotionally like resonant because of the monkey. So to summarize, the monkey works. But that's not the only thing that works in this movie. The musical sequences, as I mentioned before, are breathtaking. All right, you've probably seen clips of the musical kind of musification of Rock the DJ. Incredible sequence. Hall's absolute ass. On top of that, one of my favorite things about this movie is it's R-rated. All right? They dropped the C-bomb 20 times. And you couldn't make like a Robbie Williams movie without it being a bit edgy. But this is edgy. All right? This is not for kids. They're not trying to be a typical blockbuster biopic. This feels like a bit of an art house experiment. You've got the CGI monkey, which is already throwing people. You've got a bunch of C-bombs, nudity, drugs, like the whole movie. It genuinely felt like I was watching a slightly toned down version of Wolf of Wall Street. Like, just so much excess, but in a really interesting way. And there are fights that Monkey Robbie Williams has with people that are ugly and painful, and it doesn't turn away. Unlike that fucking Bohemian Rhapsody movie where they just made it look like the sun shone out of Freddie Mercury's ass like the whole time. Like, this is a biopic that is actually bold enough to get into the weeds of it. You know, the rating suggestion in Australia talked about mental health themes, drug abuse, and it explores that really well. They dive into Robbie Williams's mental health and also struggles with like self-deletion tendencies in a really interesting, profound, and adult way. And I actually, to a point where there are things that I can't talk about until we get to a spoiler section, because I genuinely think some of this movie, despite it being a biopic, actually needs to be a surprise for people. There are ways they extend the monkey visual metaphor that are really interesting and profound. And truthfully, I'm just really happy that we have such a weird musical biopic out. You know, I haven't been to the movies for a while because for some reason we went from having like 4 massive movies a week to like nothing for like 3 weeks straight. And now that we're at Boxing Day, New Year's, we have a fuck ton, right? So my return to the cinema was Better Man. Late at night, I did the movie wing where they're bringing out food. I had such a good time. Genuinely had such a good time. I've never seen anything like it. And not all of it works. Occasionally there's some pacing issues. There's a relationship dynamic that is kind of the main emotional tug of this film between Robbie Williams and his father. And there is a incredible emotional payoff at the end of the movie to do with their relationship. But I was sitting there being like, I wish we got more of that. You know, I wish we got more of their trouble, or I understood the dad a bit more. It was one of those movies where it's like, I can put all the pieces together. Like, on surface, I get why the dad is the way he is, why he left Robbie, why his pursuit of fame parallels Robbie's. But I just think the level of emotion that could have been pulled out of me was slightly dampened just by the fact we didn't get too much time exploring their dynamic. And I think you could cut out some of the drug stuff or some of the celebrity cameos to beef that up. But aside from that, like, this movie's musical sequences were, just astounding. And I think it's the best musical biopic we've had since Rocket Man, which I know some people didn't like Rocket Man. But I mean, I'll take a Rocket Man or a Better Man over Bohemian Rhapsody any day of the week. You know, thankfully, there was no scene where someone goes, oh, tell me about your grandmother, Robbie. And he goes, you know, she was like an angel. And through it all, you know, none of that. Thank the Lord. My biggest pet peeve with these musical biopics is you just know the beats. You know, like I held off for so long on watching I think it was the Aretha Franklin movie, because I was like, I just know they're going to do it. I know someone's going to disrespect her. And she's like, you know, these men, they need to start showing me some R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Wait, Piano Man, hit that.
What about this one? Think we'll still make that. It's a good song. I've got an idea to involve them a little bit more. Stamp to this beat.
What's the lyric?
You know, like I can't do it. I can't do generic musical biopics. But thankfully, this year we're getting a bunch of really interesting ones. We've got one where, we've got a monkey man on screen for 2.5 hours. And we've also got the Pharrell Williams documentary, which is like his life story, a normal documentary, but visualized in Lego. Cool. Like, you know, it makes generic biopics more interesting. And before this movie started, there was a trailer for the Timothée Chalamet Bob Dylan movie. You know, and apparently Timothée Chalamet is looking at an Oscar for this. And apparently the movie's pretty good. But I see the trailer and I just see like, they're trying to change you, Bob. Don't let anyone change you. And he's like, I'm going to do something. Like, it's just the same shit. All right.
You know, there's going to be the girl that was with him before he was famous, and then he gets famous and corrupted. And then like, there's a hot new girl and he like falls in love with her. But then, like, it's not like the girl back home, but he realizes it too late, but she forgives him anyway. And then, like, the music gets better again. And, like, you know what I mean? I can't do it.
And I really appreciate that this movie, genuinely, for a substantial chunk of it, I just hadn't seen anything like it. And there are sequences here that, I felt like I was on drugs. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So, tap out now, minor spoilers. There is a scene, all right, minor spoilers. This isn't going to ruin the whole movie, but tap out now if you don't want anything spoiled. There is a scene where Robbie Williams as a monkey kind of like cracks it and beats up a bunch of envisioned younger versions of his monkey self. Throughout the movie, when he's performing, he looks out in the theater and sees younger versions of himself kind of like judging him for what he's doing, being like, you don't deserve to be here, right? It's like if I looked out into an audience and saw like 5-year-old me or me in diapers being like, what the fuck are you doing up there? And at one point, he has like a mental breakdown, and this is visualized by him grabbing a microphone stand and killing them. It's insane. It's out of this world, insane shit, and I loved it. I pretty much loved every minute of this. There is a really interesting Oasis cameo. Now, the one thing I will say, I was talking before about what I wanted from this movie, and I wanted Robbie Williams to make monkey noises or throw shit at someone, and they almost got there. The other thing I would have loved, and I don't know, because on one hand, I think it's really cool that Robbie Williams is the only animal and it's never acknowledged. But at one point, he meets the members of Oasis. And upon reflection, I would have loved if other celebrities he met were represented as other animals. Like maybe he meets the Oasis brothers and they're represented as meerkats because their hair, they kind of look like meerkats, right? I would have loved that. But in saying that, I kind of get why they didn't, because then it is veering very much into BoJack Horseman territory. But yeah, I liked all the songs. They were cool. I thought Robbie Williams' voice acting was really good. I thought the exploration of self-loathing and drug addiction and what fame does to you was really well done. And I do think a lot of empathy is built up because I care about him as a monkey. As just while I've got you, I do memberships for this channel. I would love if you could consider getting one. It really helps out the channel and helps me grow. What's included in the membership is once a week, I am doing a sort of book club where I'm talking about a TV show. Currently, I'm covering Tell Me Lies Season 1. I'm covering an episode a week. After that, I'll let members vote on which show I cover next. On top of that, every 3 to 4 weeks, I also do a quick podcast talking about everything I've seen and watched that I don't have time to do full videos on. So you basically get my thoughts on everything I've seen and watched. This is all for a small cost and it really helps the channel. If this sounds interesting to you at all, please consider getting a membership. Thank you so much, and back to the video. The only thing this movie didn't do is it didn't talk about Rudebox.
Rudebox.
To the Rudebox. 'Cause you so nasty.
Now, if you've seen the Robbie Williams Netflix documentary, there is a point where his career is at an all-time high. By the way, I don't think people realize just how famous Robbie Williams is, because even me, I think he's had like 2 or 3 big hits. I never really got just how big he was. The documentary, the movie, I was like, how? But up until Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, which was very recent, he had the record for like 17 years for the fastest amount of like massive ticket sales ever for his tour. Like, he was genuinely one of the biggest artists in the world at some point. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. But going back to Rudebox, right? So at the point where he was at the biggest point in his career, afterwards he was like, what do I do next? I'm going to reinvent my sound. And he made this album called Rudebox. And the lead single of this album was also called Rudebox. In the documentary, you know, he goes, I was really proud of Rudebox. Rudebox is my best song. This is the type of music I used to make when I was 12 with my friends in my mum's basement. And then you hear Rudebox and it 100% sounds like music a 12-year-old would make in his mum's basement.
Rudebox.
Shaky Rudebox.
Why you so nasty?
I was laughing so hard. And the documentary spends a long time on the fact that he thought this was his best song ever, and the critics thought it was gobbledygook.
Do I still think that Rudebox is my best song? I like it, but I don't know what I was thinking.
And I remember hearing him being like, you know what? Yeah, critics can be pretentious. I'm sure this song's awesome. And then I played Rudebox. Man, some of the lines in this song are hysterical.
Sounds like you just wanted the Special Olympics. Rudebox. Are we gonna have sex?
Shaky Rudebox.
Why you so nasty?
The instrumental is straight buns.
Do the Rudebox. Shaky Rudebox.
Like, it sounds terrible. I love it. And that was the only other thing I want from this movie. If they had a Rudebox sequence, I would have been pissing myself laughing. This movie has a lot of empathy. I also appreciate it explores the story of him and one of his first girlfriends, I think, like big celebrity relationships. And they actually make Robbie Williams kind of look like a massive piece of shit. He's talked about in interviews the fact that like this was hard for him to revisit and act out and like do again because it's a part of his life he really looks back on badly. And the conflict they have around her single is awful on Robbie Williams's part. But not only that, the thing I appreciate about that is apparently she has a writing credit and helped like write these scenes. So it's almost a chance for Robbie to atone for some of his behavior in an earnest way, like he got her involved. On top of that, although this movie does feel like an apology from Robbie Williams, like almost like he's grown and he's looking back on how he treated people and he's trying to immortalize an apology in film form. And it feels a lot more earnest than a lot of these biopics that are just interested in making the singer look perfect and the world is just cruel and unfair. This movie seems really interested in being like, hey, like I actually have people I need to apologize to and make it up to, and I'm going to do that through this movie. And somehow, again, I think because of the monkey thing, this doesn't feel too self-indulgent or self-involved. I just want to say the opening section, right? The first 30-ish minutes, maybe 50 minutes actually, it goes for a while, is about Robbie Williams' time in Take That. It's from when he was like really little to being in this boy band that was being marketed towards the gays, and then it was marketed towards the young girls. There is a sequence where Robbie Williams's monkey gets a hand job from an executive's daughter and then makes eye contact with him and laughs about it. Like, this movie is off the chain nuts. And I love it. The performance sequences are incredible, but I really love that opening section with the Take That part. It was just really interesting. It was part of the story I didn't fully know. And yeah, when we finally get these concert sequences, they're awesome as well. This movie rocked. I'm just going to be real. Like, you should see Better Man just to say you've seen it, and see it at the theater too. Like, I was actually like really happy I saw it at the cinemas. I had a really good time. Yeah, like, strong recommendation. Watch Better Man. It's actually really cool. Like, I know people think it's whack. I do just want to vent about that too. At the point where a movie where a CGI monkey of Robbie Williams has been made, this has been seen over by a bunch of executives, a bunch of actors, like the amount of people that it takes to make a movie. So they're probably onto something. I was kind of disappointed that every time I was at the theater and the trailer for this movie played, there were a bunch of people being like, what the fuck? That's so weird. That's so random. That's so stupid. It's like, yeah, I mean, I get it's like a weird idea, but it's in front of you, like it's been made, and it's almost like people are so just like not inclined to give any critical thinking or be like, interesting, why is this being done? This must have been done for a reason because it's so out there and so weird. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, it's disappointing, this sort of like millennial Gen Z thing of like, that's so random, that's so weird. Like, like every time I go to the movies, you just hear people just seeing like new ideas and just they just want to shoot it down, and then all the time you hear people complaining that everything's like a sequel or a remake and we don't get anything original anymore. And it's like, this feels original, this is out there, and I appreciate it. And you know what I mean, like sometimes you just have to be like, there is probably a reason this has been made and they've taken a gamble on this, maybe I'll hear them out, you know? And yeah, like I had friends I was sitting with when a trailer for this movie came on. They were like, how fucking stupid, what the fuck is that about? And it's like, I don't know, a bit embarrassing. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? I shit you not, there is a scene at the end of this movie where after, you know, he's been seeing the younger versions of himself judging him, there's a sequence where they start approving his performance, like these visions he has of his younger self or his alternate live selves, right? These different monkeys, they all look up and go like, they really like what he's doing. I almost teared up. It was like a powerful moment. The movie got me. I could not fucking believe it. There were like 2 points where I was genuinely like emotional in the Robbie Williams monkey movie. So yeah, check it out. It's cool. Thank you so much for watching and have a lovely day. Please subscribe. Please like if you enjoyed the video. This was just a quick, loose vlog. Whatever. I enjoy it. Thank you.